Good morning, everybody. This is Walk the Dog with Riot Mort. It is Thursday, patch day, and it is like 5 a.m. I am up early. You know how it is, patch day. Some days you just can't sleep. It is also rainy and gloomy out here. So if I end up looking a little wet at the end, that's why. All right. Well, as I said, first thing I do when I wake up on these days, you don't want to know a clock, is check those data websites and see how players are reacting. It's a little early, not a ton of data in right now, but so far, nothing looks too out of line. Top comps seem to be stuff like Dynamo Misfortune or Elise Brom. So Dynamo Flex looking really good, but other than that, nothing's jumping off the page. The other thing I'd say so far is that none of the buffs really did much. LeBlanc still seems pretty bad. Graves still seems pretty bad, though the Graves one I kind of predicted. So it almost kind of looks similar, which is good because it was a good meta before. But I would say bad in the sense that, nothing new really got added. Although I am seeing Kog'Maw reroll might be playable finally with Kraken, so that's cool. As far as the new items go, Sterix looks a little strong, but thankfully there aren't that many good users, so it's not really a huge deal if it looks a little strong. Ginsu's people seem to be having more fun with, so that's good. What else? Spirit Visage looks a little weak, but again, kind of what I predicted. Trying to think. Was there anything else? No, I mean, that's kind of it. So I don't know what caused, by the way, like there was apparently a lot of people were saying Void Staff was weak. I don't really get where that came from. That seems weird. It's very similar. Nico theorized that people just really overvalue the idea of getting shred on the backline, which is weird because when your backline has, 20 or 30 armor and MR, shred's not really that important on them. So, I don't know. Stats on Void Staff seem fine so far, but again, it's very, very, very early. So who knows until, like, in particular, I think if you look at something like the Kog'Maw comp, that's a comp that has not been optimized remotely. And so give players 3-4 days and we'll see the most optimized version of that Kog'Maw line. We'll see people start to really understand, like, what's the best carry with it. Like, I saw somebody experimenting with Vi this morning, but, like, is Vi really the best, or is there other lines? So we'll see. But the TLDR here is so far it doesn't look like anything's on fire, which is good because part of my job is that every 2 weeks I have to stress out that if something's on fire, then my boss is going to be like, what'd you do? Why'd you break it? This is why you shouldn't touch anything. This is why balance, so, but so far so good. So we'll see. Beyond that, clock's counting down till curveball. And yeah, just kind of dealing with future stuff, which is always challenging. 15's got a lot of content. And every time you have a lot of content, it's like, a really interesting example here is, I'll try to say this without spoiling anything. It's like you do a play test. You have 8 people on your team that are all involved in this play test, and it takes, 40 minutes to do this play test of your workday. And then one bug or one overtuned trait or one problematic augment can actually kind of wipe all your reads from that playtest. In this particular case, we had a trait that was way over the line due to a bug fix that had happened with it the previous day. And so then it's like, well, 2 people happen to be playing that trait, which causes your reads to go off. And, it's like, there goes kind of an hour and we don't actually get that many balance reads out of it, which is one of the reasons why, like, sample size at a wide scale can be really difficult. And so in those type of play tests, you have to figure out like, okay, well, did the champions that weren't bugged, did they at least feel right? You can't do a comparative to the thing you're fighting against because the thing you're fighting against is clearly over the line. But how did this feel compared to previous sets, right? I've got this carry. Did the way they have their pace of combat feel right? Did the way my champion with the items they had feel like it was doing what it was supposed to? But again, it can be hard for people less skilled to judge that, because when we say, did it feel good? And this is hypothetical, but like, let's say you're hitting a tank that's clearly way too tanky and unbalanced. Your champion can feel like it's not doing anything, which can make the champion feel bad, right? If you have a spell that's supposed to AoE a bunch of people down, but then it AoEs no one, that feels bad. So your judgment call might be that thing is underpowered when it's not. And so I'm describing a lot of the feedback I get from the people on the team, but it's a really tough skill to talk about here. I know I haven't answered any questions yet, but one other thing I wanted to bring up for those of you that watch this is, and this is a little early because I think it's going to come out either today or tomorrow, but there is going to be a job posting for TFT to be a designer on either the live or the finalization team. It'll be, actually, we're hiring 3 spots technically, and they won't require game design experience. We're going to be indexing very heavily on TFT affinity. We need people who understand and know what TFT is. We can't afford, someone to come in and ramp up for a year. That just hasn't been working for us. And we need people who index heavily on growth mindset. And what this means is people who are willing to come in and kind of go, I know a lot about TFT, but I am here to learn and I am here to absorb. Kent was the best example of this in the past. When we hired Kent before, he was working on finance at Blizzard. He came to TFT. He had 0 game design experience, but he had been a challenger, and he, was currently masters and stuff like that. And he came in and was sort of like, worked very closely with me and absorbed my years of design experience into himself. And now he's a senior designer leading the finalization team because he spent a good year and a half sort of absorbing all the lessons I was willing to teach him, and so we're kind of looking for that next kind of person to do that. So it's definitely going to be one of those rare opportunities. So if you happen to see this and you're interested in that and you think you're that kind of person, consider applying. But I will also keep your on it. Like, let's be real, a game design experience thing on a successful job. Sorry, let me start over. A game design position that doesn't require game design experience on a successful game that's doing very well at a successful company that pays pretty well in this market, there are going to be a lot of applicants. The hardest thing is actually for our team that's going to have to read through all those applications. That's going to be rough. So I imagine the posting won't actually be open that long. So, yeah, we'll see. But it's exciting. We've been wanting to hire these positions for a while. So to finally see the posting go live today or tomorrow, it's pretty good. So, yeah. All right. Questions. Sorry. The first one's an interesting one. It actually comes from one of my mods. How do you feel about community memes? Now, the mod listed a bunch of the community memes, such as 200 years of experience, or getting Mortdog, or shifting momentum, or, whatever. There were a bunch of listed. And the answer to this is complicated. When you think about a meme, often it's not the words, right? Like, I think a lot of the times for people, a meme is funny because it's like a group unison Twitch chatty kind of thing where we can just echo chamber and go, lol, parrot this, parrot that. And often it's the intent of what is being said that can be tricky. You know, it's I'm trying to think of the best way to word this, but currently in the world, there is an ecosystem of anger and overreaction culture that is prominent in a lot of places, especially online. And it's like, who can take a small slight and overreact in the funniest way to get attention? And so the motivation behind creating these memes sometimes is to get attention, you know, or to call out that little slight. Now, sometimes these memes are self-inflicted, right? Like the 200 years of experience thing, you know, even internally, I think a lot of us were looking at that post and sort of going, bro, you can't say that. Come on, that was a comms miss, you know. But others is like, you know, I'll talk about the win trading thing. It's like the esports team was trying to do their job as best they could, but you disagree with the call, so you meme them to death as your way of expressing your discontent with the call. Or, you know, spaghetti code, which is your way of expressing discontent with a riot bug. You know, essentially memes have become a way, I think that's the best way to phrase it, of expressing discontent with something in a way that avoids coming across as too toxic, but the motivations behind them are an inherently sort of, I don't know, toxic's not the right word. It's not the right word. I don't want to use the word toxic, but it's just like, you want to be loud and you want to be dissatisfied by it. And so, you know, sometimes you just laugh at it, right? Like, it's not a big deal because it's harmless. It's definitely harmless. You know, again, it depends on the meme too, right? Like the getting Mortdogged. That's funny. No harm there. That one's, if anything, that one's grown on me. But like the 200 years of experience one, that one was just like, man, none of us said that. There was one person that said that. And now every decision is being memed to death. And it's like, great, you know, which feels bad. But here's the other thing. It's the internet. And I believe they call it the Streisand effect. But typically when people meme something, if you react to it and give it the attention that they want, they go harder, right? I think an example is the win trading thing, right? Like, yes, I said what I believed at the time, and yes, I was open and honest about it, but again, would have been very easy to just not say a word, and probably wouldn't have gone as big of an attention, you know? And that's why I think a lot of people, because again, the incentive to reply to any of this stuff is so low, because anything you say can just be well, I disagree with you, so now I'm going to meme on you, right? Hilariously enough, if you go to like children's psychology, if you think about like 5-year-olds on a playground and the way they would mock you with a like, Johnny said this, that's essentially what memes are. They're essentially the internet's way of mocking something with that 5-year-old's voice. So, you know, there's no logic behind it. It's just an emotional response to discontent. And so, you know, much like the 5-year-olds, you're not really going to stop that. If anything, you hope that someday they'll grow out of it. But it's also, you know, 2025, and a lot of people are struggling to grow up a little. So, and yes, I realize I'm like coming across as like a super old boomer trying to talk to internet memes here. So thanks for that, Kay. But I think the best way we can deal with them is to just let them exist, let people have their fun with them, and focus on making a good game, you know? So if people want to type shifting momentum, okay. Okay, if people want to say Mort probably has 200 years of experience by himself, lol, lol, lol. Okay, you do that. You do you. You know, no sense fighting it. So, by the way, I'm wiping my face because, like, I know this doesn't come through on the camera, but it is raining. So, I'm getting wet. You won't like me when I'm wet. Wait, what? Anyway, TLDR here. Keep on memeing. It's fine. I get it. We're not going to change internet culture. We're not going to change anything. It is what it is. So, you keep on memeing. But, the thing is, it's funny. I'll end on this. Something I was always told was that every joke has an element of truth. The question is just how much truth, And so all of these memes, all of these comments, there's elements of truth to them. And it's up to us to fix things so that maybe they aren't true anymore, If people are going to meme about spaghetti code, maybe our goal should be to make the code base better, So if we're going to meme about 200 years of experience, maybe we have to make a game so good that it kind of looks like we do have 200 years of experience, That's all you can really do. So, I don't know. That's a complicated topic, and humans are weird, and culture's weird, and I don't like it all the time, but I'm just a game designer walking in the forest in the rain at 5 a.m, so what are you going to do? All right, next question. Oh, this one's a fun one. How do you feel about the current ranked system? So it's tough because on the one hand, I'm skeptical that the thing Riot made 15 years ago for League of Legends is perfect for TFT, and we didn't need to change anything, and this is the best rank system we could ever have. On the other hand, it is doing its job for the first 2 months of a set. It's doing its job well and leading to people having fairer matches, which is a good thing. But are there things I would change? Absolutely. And are there industry trends that definitely show that maybe things have changed to where this isn't the optimal system anymore? Absolutely. Now, if you really want to get educated on this topic, what's really interesting to do is look at ranked systems in other games, especially in regions like Korea and China, because a lot of the way their ranked systems work are very, very different. So, as an example, King of Glory, which for those who don't know is like the biggest game in China, it's the mobile league of China, and it has become this whole thing, and it's their Fortnite, if you will. It's extremely big, very big game. The way their ranking system works, and I actually think this was genius of them, is, there's a deer there. Hi, deer. Let me see if I can show you the deer real quick, sorry. You see it there? It should be, there it is, right there in the camera, right there. So I'm walking towards it. I'm going to move to the other side. I just don't want to disturb it. Sorry. Hi, deer. Let's see how this goes. Anyway, she's leaving. Okay. Oh, dashing into the forest. Okay. The thing about the rank system in there is, so they have a system that's exactly like leagues, where you go all the way up to challenger, okay? But that system is not actually a ranked system. It is a progression system, where as long as you play games and eventually win enough games, you will hit challenger. Everyone in COG can get challenger if they put in the hours. And then once you hit challenger, that opens up access to the ranks that are higher than challenger that actually act like a ranked system. So, for a lot of their casual player base, as long as you play games and win eventually, number go up. And you can go all the way to challenger. And I think this was especially genius because essentially what it did is devalued the name of challenger, because oh, you're challenger in COG? Oh, that means you're just getting started. And then you have to go up the actual ranks and do a thing. And so this serves two purposes. One is that, again, casuals get that constant sense of progression, which feels good for them, right? Nobody likes losing LP. Nobody likes getting hard stuck gold or hard stuck plat. And you see this in a lot of more modern games as well. I think Marvel Rivals ranking system has a lot of these things as well, where it's like heavily progression based so that everyone can feel good about hitting what seems like a good rank. And then for those of you that are turbo engaged and played that long, then we'll give you the real rank system that actually judges skill. So definitely more modern rank systems have moved into that way. So should we follow suit? Perhaps. The other thing is that I do believe one of the most harmful things of TFT, we talk about you have 3 seconds to name the worst things about TFT. One of the first 3 things I'll say is that moment when you go first, 8th, and you lose LP because your MMR floor is below your rank. Excuse me, sorry. Where you gain 30 for a first and minus 70 for an 8th. And you're like, well then, I can't win at a 70% win rate and I'm never going to climb, so why am I playing? Sorry, hopefully this stops. Usually I'm a 2 sneezer. My wife is a 4 sneezer. So those moments where, you're gaining 30 for a first and 70 for an 8th are the actual worst experiences. Now, let me be clear. I'm not talking about when you're 2000 LP and you lose 100 LP for an 8th. I'm not talking about that. That makes sense. The top of any ranked ladder is where things fall apart. Unless you do it like Hearthstone Battlegrounds, where they just have infinite climbing, which is also really bad. I don't want to see any 4000 LP challengers. No. That's bad too. But I'm talking about when you're Diamond 4 and you go first, 8th, and you're still Diamond 4-0 LP. Those are the worst experiences. So that has been at the top of my list of things that we need to fix for a while. It's like that, some matchmaking feels, and something I forget. But yeah. But here's the thing. Here's the really deadly conversation. Ranked actually acts as a primary motivator for a lot of people when playing video games, right? Like, ranked essentially is that progression system. And no, this isn't some weird manipulative, psychology thing. I'm just saying people like to have goals. And when you set those goals, like getting to a certain rank is a goal, and it motivates you to enjoy the process and achieve those goals. There's nothing insidious about this. It's just having goals is good. Ranked provides those goals. And it's doing it well to the point where people are setting goals. And, I would say 3 to 5 times a week, I'm seeing a post where it's just like, I hit Diamond for the first time. I hit Master for the first time. I'm so excited, right? Like, this is a good thing. Having goals is good. And I bring this up because if we screw it up and the rank system goes to hell, well, we lose that. And that would be a very bad thing to lose. So in order to improve the rank system, you would need to do some pretty big changes. But if you screw those changes up, you can do some massive harm to the game. So the question is the risk worth the reward here? And TFT players are good at judging risk versus reward, right? And so you'd better have a damn good solution for improving that rank system. So it's a tough challenge. But yeah, so overall, I feel like the rank system is doing its job, could be better, could be modernized, but tough to find that perfect solution that definitely is an improvement. But who knows? You know, that's the other thing about TFT is we are a 6-year-old game now, and we got to keep improving things. We cannot stay stagnant. This is not an industry right now. This is not an industry where staying stagnant is a good thing and will keep your audience. You know, you got to keep innovating. So, yeah. I don't know. Was I a little more open on that question than I should be? Maybe. But these are, you know, tough conversations. So, all right. Next one's pretty easy. Might only get, so I talked a lot at the beginning, so we might only get through 3 again today. Is the team content with the current length of the game? This is another one that I would say people who aren't that familiar with TFT, who then join the team or maybe are off team and looking at TFT from the outside, this is one that gets brought up constantly because TFT is a mobile game, right? Like, let's not beat around the bush. I know most of the people watching this probably play on PC, but if we talk about our global audience and we talk about things like that, it is, let's just say it's 50-50. It's not 50-50, but let's just say it's 50-50. We're in this fake numbers, 50% of our audience is mobile, right? The general knowledge right now is that mobile is not a platform for people to play 40 minutes at a time, right? Typically mobile is your 10-minute games or your 5-minute games, right? Your Clash Royales or your whatevers. And so everyone's sort of initial reaction is 40-minute TFT games, that's absurd. Your goal should be to reduce game time. Get more games in, things like that. I disagree. And I'm not going to say this with any like scientific background or anything like that, but I believe that the core of TFT is the journey of the starting point and all the things that happen to reach the end point, and the story that gets told each time you play the game, where it's like, well, I started on 2-1, and I got these items, and I hit this augment, and I was lose streaking, but then I hit this augment, I turned it around, and on my roll down, I hit, like, that story is what TFT is. It's what keeps people coming back. And if your story is in 10 minutes, it's not a very good story. It doesn't have ups and downs and things like that. Now, that being said, if your story is 3 hours, it's a little long, and not everyone has time for a 3-hour story, you know? And so I believe our game time is about what it should be to keep an engaging story so that each time you sit down and play, you have an experience that you remember and you want to go back to and is just like good TFT and makes what it is. Now, I'm not to say that like we have the exact right length, right? Like one of the things we did a couple of years ago, Medler kept pressing me to do this, and he was right, is like find places where you can take out 10 seconds, right? It's like, does the carousel need to be quite as long? If you cut out 2 seconds in between each release, that's 8 seconds, that's some saving. Or remember when PvE planning phases used to be 30 seconds and now they're 20? There's another, 40 seconds saved. And so I think we got average game time from like 36 minutes down to like 33 minutes. And so like that level of savings, I'm actually all on board with. But when I look at it in terms of like the structure of TFT, would I cut a level out of each stage so that like instead of 2.7, it'd be 2.6? No, I wouldn't. Do I want games ending on 5.5 instead of 6.5? No, because then you don't get to enjoy your end game. Like, I think that length is actually pretty good. If anything, you could argue that the mid game is a little too short, right? Because like the fact that you go from like level 6 on 3.2 to level 8 on 4.2 is very common. Level 7, I think someone said level 7 feels like it barely exists anymore, which isn't necessarily a bad thing because it's not like level 4 and 5 exist for that long either. But like, there's a lot of levels in the game right now that don't have a lot of room to breathe. So there's an argument that like we should go longer, but again, all game design science says shorter is better. So, and that's where again I kind of am like, you know, I know people are saying shorter, some people are saying longer, which means we're probably right about where we should be in terms of game length. I don't think we need to spend, like, we're not going to get much return on lowering the game length another 3 minutes or raising the game length another 3 minutes. So if anything, we should be focusing on something else. And if, let's say hypothetically, again, fake things, I have to stress, by the way, when I say hypothetically, because I don't want people thinking I'm like leaking stuff. Like I'm literally making up scenarios to have a conversation. But let's say someone was like, you know what? 10-minute games are all the rage and we absolutely need to have a 10-minute game. I don't think the answer is turn TFT into a 10-minute game. I think the answer would be come up with a new game. And this is something that, I'll be honest, Riot kind of struggles with a little bit, because you have a live service game, people enjoy the game for what it is. You don't change that game and then risk losing the audience and not capturing the new audience. You keep that game what it is and make a new game. Like, my Nintendo brain is just like, why aren't we making more games? You know?